Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Right, just bear with me 1 second. Just find my notes. It's here somewhere. Where did I get up to? Chapter 5. All right, so it's a very good morning. Still a cold one, even though we're in June. Unbelievable, isn't it? And just as we're at the beginning of the live, and I always forget, one thing that I do need to mention is the fact that I am looking for 3 people to join a coaching group. So I need just 3 people who are interested. So the price of the coaching group is $237, and what you get for that is you get 2 hours in this group of no more than 4 people. And what we do is we work on your music on a Zoom call, so separately. And I'll talk you through various sort of exercises, games and things. And we just create music. You make lots of music. We review what you're doing, and we set actions for you, and you go off and do that for the rest of the week, and then we come back and then we review what you've done, and then we continue to make music. And basically what I do is I do the full walk with you from not releasing music all the way to you releasing music and beyond. So it's an absolute steal. So 2 hours. We meet every week. It's a wonderful thing. So do have a think about that, because I do need 3 people. So other than that, I thought I'd just stick that at the beginning of this so people can hear that. The other thing that I do is there is one-to-one coaching as well. So anybody who wants an individual one-to-one session, then just give me a message and we will get you going. All right then. So we've got 2 people here. Here's Kevin. Very good. I wonder who else. I've got another 3. Let's get my notes. What are we talking about today? We're talking about concentration. It's amazing. Well, I think we might be able to get through the rest of this today. We'll see how we get on. But first, I need some coffee. All right. Who else we've got? Oh, we've got Joseph. Hi, Joseph. How is it going? And we've got a present. Hello. Great. Got a few people on this morning, which is brilliant. Holla Tim. Hi. Excellent. So, yeah, I'm super excited. In a game of music. Finally. I've been mentioning the In a Game of Music for since I started this channel. And I just thought, for those who haven't got it or don't have the time to read it, I'll just talk through a few bits of it and give you my take on it. It's midnight for you, sorry. But yeah, it's morning for me, and 6 o'clock in the morning here. 12 o'clock for you. And what a great way to unwind your day and relax is listen to me going on about the In a Game of Music. So yes, appreciate everybody coming on here and having a listen to what I've got to say. I wonder if I should hold on a little bit longer. So just like anybody who kind of who may not have seen yesterday's In a Game of Music Part 1, this is now Part 2. Basically, the In a Game of Music is a book that's all about how to, it's all about the mindset. It's the inner game. It's our thoughts and feelings and how we can manage them to become better musicians, basically. So often, we're always thinking about the external factors, learning new licks, shredding, playing. We're looking at things like, we tend to crave for things that give us certainty in our process. If I do this, will I get X at the end of it? Is it guaranteed? None of that's guaranteed. There's lots of uncertainty. And because there's uncertainty internally, now we think about our music, playing, creating music, that is a very weird place indeed. So this is, the indie game of music I found extremely useful for, playing guitar, but also making music. The thing, so if you're not necessarily an instrument player and you're on here because of music production as well. Really, actually, the indie game of music, I was applying that to music production before I then started really applying it to guitar. I've known about the book for since 2015, 16. So I was applying it to music production, believe it or not, first, and then I accidentally got back into guitar shredding because I was playing guitar, but I wasn't, seriously playing it like I am now back then. And then sort of 2022, really, I picked up the guitar again as a sort of main, one of my main features, shall we say, and to get myself up to a playing standard very, very quickly. This book massively helped me in so many ways, and I recommend everybody should have this as their Bible, really. Anyway, let's have a look at it. Okay, so today we are looking at chapter 5, which is concentration. So concentration, breathing awareness, focusing on the breath, center concentration before, during playing. So this is pretty simple, isn't it? Like centering our concentration on our playing. So when I think of the guitar, and this comes with the single point focus and broad focus awareness. Okay, so single point focus is the other thing. So concentrating on one aspect of playing, such as the feel of the keys or strings, and broad focus is expanding the awareness to include multiple elements like sound, touch, and breath. So how I think about from a guitar perspective, so I think of there's this triangulation of three things, right? And it's basically sight, touch, and sound. And those are the three things we're kind of trying to triangulate. Weirdly enough, I saw ages ago, I stumbled on a Steve Vai lesson on YouTube, and I remember him talking about this very, very sort of thing, when you're playing, right, how does it sound, all right, how does it look, and how does it feel? And we can remember and align all of these particular features. So I'm really, really big on the sensory aspect for a lot of reasons, especially touch. I find touch can really help me focus in on the instrument. And, I was talking a lot about, the self 1, self 2, and self 1's the critical self, and quieting it down. I do find the touch of the instrument, just focusing in on, how the string feels under your fingers, and curling your fingers, and just really feeling how each string touches into your fingers, it's like, so at the minute I'm always working on, and it's weird, it's a bit like you gotta keep fixing your hand, haven't you? Especially when you're playing a lot of legato, you can get a lazy flat hand. So I'm always having to pull my hands up and get them into more of a curled position. And so one thing I'll do is when I play a note, right? Okay, and we don't need to hear the guitar. When I play a note, what I like to do is I like to feel, or try and feel as much as I can, the vibration going into my finger. And I find it's a really good thing to send to me. So there I can feel the vibration going up to my finger end. Now the cool thing about that is I can chase that feeling. So if I'm just doing something simple, like, I don't know, chromatic exercise. Better plug in there. And these are like really boring sort of exercises on the chromatic notes and stuff like that. But anyway, so if I'm just playing something, chromatic, and I'm feeling those vibrations, okay? It's really, really focusing me in on the real micro details of playing. So again, if I do something like, that, I don't know if we know the fusion scale. There is such a thing. It's just you fill in all the gaps in a major scale. So something like that, I'm feeling. What I'm doing there is I can feel every vibration going in there. And I particularly like just enjoying playing like this really slow. And really working on the tone of your fingers. So it's early in the morning. You can hear that the tone's really, really improving. Which is what we want, and then you're away, I'm just somewhere else now and just jam along. So yes, so feeling those vibrations under your fingers, like super important. And like, it's really helped me curl those fingers as well. Because at the end of the day, we want to be relaxing as well, which is part of it as well. So that would be one thing. And then you've got the visual side. So are those fingers curled? Are they, do they look right? Now it's sounding good. As well as how does it feel? How does it look? And obviously, like, how does it sound? Sound is like the most important thing, isn't it? So that's a really important aspect, and obviously that feel thing just reduces the self one, critical self as well. Okay, so I suppose that would be sort of the single point focus, and breath awareness is really important. So when we're playing, we can, like, when you're practicing as well, it's like meditation. We can actually focus in, on our breathing as well, and as we're practicing sort of exercises. And again, it's a great way just to get centered. And broad focus awareness to include multiple elements like sound, and again, as breath as well. So the way that I think about this, and we touched upon this yesterday, and that is direct listening. So I'm always surprised at how many people don't know how to listen to music, right? And it's, especially for us musicians, it's really, really important. I mean, there is a reason for it, and I think a lot of it is basically our mobile phones, internet, YouTube has reduced us to complete, like, attention spans. But, we've got attention span of a flea. Hello, Des, how are you doing? How's it going? Right, Des, I don't know if you caught up with yesterday, but I'm just talking through the chapters of In a Game of Music, and I'm just talking about awareness up to chapter 5. I know Des has got the In a Game of Music book. So awareness, so global awareness. What is that? I talked about this yesterday, the direct listening, and there are various. Direct listening comes from direct experience, and it's just a psychological term, really. And what that's all about is being able to just focus on like one thing, and not being distracted and ignoring the the self-talk, in other words, the self one, which I'll be mentioning quite a lot as we go through this. So when we're playing music, the one thing that we do need to be doing is we need to be completely situationally aware of what's around us. And we can be focusing on lots of multiple things. And one thing that we do need to be focusing in on is what's actually happening in the music, okay? So sometimes we can get distracted. So it's a good idea to then actually, when that happens, is a first port of call is to like redirect our thoughts back to the music that we're playing on. That's like really, really important, okay? And there are a couple of parts to this, okay? So the first thing is what I do to practice the global awareness. We're getting a bit glitchy here. I don't know why it does that. So I might have to unplug the camera, right? And then plug it back in. Will be one moment. Has it got better? Right. Yeah, so 2 seconds. Right, there, we're probably back on. Don't know why it's like glitching out like that. Anyway, what was I saying? So the global focus. So focusing on the music, and direct focus. That's what I was talking about. Till I started going like really glitchy. Sorry, I very easily lose my train of thought here. So yes, we sort of need to learn to listen, and we need to learn to listen without judgment, not thinking about what we're playing, but actually just listening to the music. So there's a great direct listening exercise, which is called global focus. And what that is, and this is to do with the breathing, is to actually, when you're listening to music, focus on your breathing, extend your peripheral vision, and have a wide posture and sit up. Right, and then what you've got to do is listen to the music and maintain that posture while you're listening, and try not to have any judgmental thoughts. So that's like one exercise that I'll do, and I use that when I'm reviewing my music. So and usually I'll do this outside of the studio. I never do a critical listening session at the beginning of a session unless I'm on a live here. Okay, so that's just, I do that so everybody can see the listening session, and so I can tell you what direct listening exercise that I'm going to do. But I found this super like helpful, because that listening skill for me, and I don't know about you lot, is somewhat, unless I do this, it's somewhat lost. I don't, there's so much music out there, there's so much flicking about on different songs people do. I mean, my daughter, a teenager, I've never heard her listen to one song all the way through in the car. She'll like listen to something halfway through, switch it to something else, or listen to an intro or something, switch to another thing. So we're constantly flicking about and not actually listening fully to anything. I remember the days when, as a small child, I was a massive fan of Kiss, and I remember the big, Alive 1 and Alive 2 records, and I could just sit and like listen to Kiss on a record player and just look at the pictures for like the full double album and just listen to it, and absorb. And I wasn't even playing guitar then. There wasn't any invested interest where I could imagine what they were playing or anything like that. It was just, I was purely there for the music. And, our attention spans have been somewhat destroyed, haven't they? So we need to kind of push back and fight back and one of those things is to practice your direct listening. Another really good. I mean, we do have obviously that focusing on your breathing as well, and using that as an anchor for concentration is really, really important. But the other one that I really, really like to do is a lot of the time when we're listening to music, okay, when we're listening to music, we're not really aware of what our body's doing, what body sensations are happening. We tend to sit there and it's all the thinking side, or especially if we're listening to music, judgmental, all that kind of chaos, So a lot of it's quite thinky, and we're not really aware of what our body's doing. But our body physically responds to the tension and release of music, and this is one of my favorite direct listening games. And I particularly like doing it with dance music that has big, which has big sort of drops and. It's like super dynamic. Actually, one track I love practicing this too is Walker and Royce, I Want to Freak. I'll put it on. So whenever I want to kind of line myself up, I want to freak by Walker and Royce. I don't know why I've spelled it. Yeah, I want I Want to Freak by Walker. It's Royce, not Rice. Royce. And that's just a great track. And then literally all I'll do is I'll put that track on, and then I try and tune into what my body sensations are. Hi Sean, how you doing? We're just on chapter 5. So I'm just talking about some more we're talking about global focus. So I'm back to talking a little bit about direct experience. Now, how we can use this, so we've got our focus as in, when we're playing guitar, instead of getting lost in our thoughts, redirecting our thoughts to the music. But when we're actually playing and we're playing solos, a really good game to play with yourself is to play, and when we're practicing, with that tension release when we're playing and feel it physically in our body, So when we're playing really fast, right, that's like the height point of tension, isn't it? And then just working on, how we can then release that tension in a musical way, but actually focusing in on our body as well as the music. So that's another really good technique to use, and obviously a way to just sort of improve your listening, because any time that we're lost in thought, you're just not listening to the music, are you? Or any time we're kind of listening to a piece of music, and the biggest one is like listening to your own music and then hearing something, an instrument playing something weird, and then just focusing on that and then making plans of how you're going to fix it isn't kind of what you're going to do. Or if we're playing guitar and you play a mistake, then getting lost in thought about how you're going to recover and how you're going to practice that out, or your next move, because time's already passed, the song's still moving, it's moving, and we're stuck in this kind of loop of thought which we don't necessarily want to be in. So I think that kind of covers it: breath awareness, single point focus, and broad focus. And certainly before we're playing, in fact, I remember Thomas telling me about his classical guitar teacher. His classical guitar teacher, talking about breathing, used to say, rather than accounting, like on the breath, start to play, and that's obviously being used as a method for single point focus. So breathing, focusing on your breathing to get your to improve concentration is a thing. And just like in the direct experience exercises, focusing on your breathing before starting your music massively kind of helps to get us focused and centered. Right. So I think that covers that one. Chapter 5: breath awareness, single point focus, broad focus. Right. That's all good. slow practice, slowly, right, practice slowly to build awareness and control. Again, I sort of like touched on that. So one thing I do love to do is a bit of slow motion jamming, you know. I think that's like wonderfully fun thing to do. But I should have just put a track on, shouldn't I? So I could do some slow motion jamming. See what happens. Hold on. I wonder if I've got something here. I thought I had something. Right, I'm just going to click this and see what happens. Back. I thought I had something actually loaded, but I don't. Oh, there's Chili. Hi, Chili. How you doing? So yes, just practicing slowly. That's something I really, really like to do. So just improvising. I don't know if I've got. Maybe I've got something here. Have a look. All right. So yeah, and then morning cutie pies. So yeah, quite difficult to do, but just practicing. Like, I don't know if anybody kind of does that, but just trying to improvise, especially with like a technique. When I'm doing hammers only, I love doing practicing it really slowly, because it helps you join the notes, especially if you practice just with a dry sound like that. Oops. So hours of fun there. All right, let's move on. So yeah, practicing slowly and then segmented practice, breaking music into small sections and focusing in on one section at a time. So that's certainly something I'll do when I'm writing solos. Like sometimes when I'm writing a solo, I'll do loads of improvisations, and then I'll find basically when I'm happy with one of the improvisations, what I'll do is I'll break it up into small chunks and then relearn that whole solo. So, but I mean that's fairly it's fairly sort of like self-explanatory, that one, like breaking things into small chunks. I'm sure we probably already do that one, but yeah, segmented practice, breaking things into small focus and then playing them one after another and then linking everything together. And then exploratory practice as well. So this is another thing I'll particularly like to do, and that is just trying to play things in, using like different like dynamics and different ways to play things. So instead of bending, using the whammy bar, playing things instead of like on distortion all the time, using what I'll particularly like to do is like edge of breakup sounds, and then really kind of play with what my picking dynamics are doing. I don't know if I've got one. So that's something that I'll do. As like, and I find that really useful when I'm practicing. Instead of being, because there's a couple of things like sometimes you want to be practicing with the sound that you're actually going to be using, especially if you're doing like a lot of legato, because you're controlling noise as well. So it kind of makes sense that a lot of that practice is done with distortion. But then also we want to kind of play with our dynamics, especially with like picking. So I do find like edge of breakup sounds really useful as well to actually do that. It can really help you focus. In fact, I'll just get up one of my sounds. Let's see. What have I got? Breaking point. You can see I'm using the hyper rig here. So this kind of thing's really good to get tuned in. So yeah, just kind of messing with those dynamics. Just some notes out. And there's that's a great thing about bringing like hybrid picking, because you got a whole now set of dynamic range there, from quite aggressive to very quiet. In fact, the dynamic range of from your hybrid fingers probably greater than the pick. And obviously it's a great way to kind of connect your legato lines as well, starting with a hybrid, because it means you're starting basically your lines with the same material as your hand, skin, rather than plastic. Okay. Right, we're doing well here. Let's see where we're up to. Right, any questions? Anybody who wants to say anything, do type in the chat. It can get lonely here just talking away and talking about stuff and what have you. Chapter 7. So chapter 7 is about visualization, visualizing a successful performance to reduce anxiety. I do like, again, this comes down to sort of like if you can meditate, 5 minutes concentrating on your breathing always sort of really sorts me out in a lot of situations, even if it's just a small 2-minute one. But I do like to be very mindful of, like, when you do have that kind of negative feeling about your playing, like, oh, I'm going to mess it up, is just starting and play something like really simple, just like a few notes, and get that initial kind of push off confidence as you're launching into something. So what I tend to find is, just having like just playing something really small and really, really simple can really kind of help with that, Six notes, something like that. Oops. Just to start you off right, something nice and simple without going into any big sort of shredding or anything like that. Just something really, really simple to get your confidence up, Another thing is performance simulation, practicing performing in front of a small audience or recording oneself. So I think all of that's like really good practice, a small audience. But if you haven't got, one thing about these lives, and this is a massive part of my playing, is because you've got like a small group, on here. And it's a bit of I think this whole sort of live thing for me, in terms of my development of a musician, it's a bit like a laboratory where, you can consider me like some sort of lab rat here, and I'm kind of just really experimenting on myself. So, it's the things that I want to try out. I can try out in front of a small audience, and because the lives are recorded, what I'll tend to do is I'll go back to those lives and review what I was doing, and then that'll kind of inform me on what I need to practice over the next coming days or the week. I've talked about it a lot is the bigger performance thing with like Thomas. When I'm playing there, that's a real sort of like where I really kind of drill down onto what I need to be working on. So every week, every fortnight, when I do play on there, I'll watch back bits of what I'm doing, especially bits that didn't go great, and work out what went wrong, and then come up with usually like very tiny little exercises or mindset type things that I'll use throughout the week whenever I've got a few moments. So when you're just kind of picking a guitar up and you're noodling, I'll have different like exercises and things that I'll have worked out that have very particular aims in improving me. Because like, how else do why we do, a lot of the time when we're doing music, yes, you can sit in there and, you can do music by yourself and it's enjoyable and it's therapeutic and that's great. But when we are kind of wanting to connect with the outside world, really, whatever, at that point when we're playing to other people, that's sort of the benchmark of where we're at the time. That's, you're as good as your last gig, so to say. So when we're doing that, it's just a great bit of information to then review. It's the same when you release music, you can do, when we're doing wins, problems and opportunities, for example. So when I'm doing wins, problems and opportunities after every session, really those wins, problems and opportunities, it's more to do with reviewing yourself. Okay, it's more to do with reviewing your own process and how you can improve that, because basically you do a session, whether it's on guitar or writing a piece of music, and then what you're saying is, right, what went well, okay, and you make yourself feel good, and then we start talking about the problems, which are great, and then you come up with solutions. So they're all very sort of performance based. But in sort of a long-term review, what you need is something. You need some sort of connection, preferably with the world, right? And then that gives you perfect data. So if a performance is going bad, I'm not so fussed about it now, because I just think, oh, well, that's really interesting that that's happened. And sometimes I'm really excited to then kind of get back to that video and see what happened and try and work out what was going on in my mind at the time. What were the mechanical, technical failures? What do I need to work on in terms of mindset? What was the music doing? And it's just brilliant data, because one thing that happens is when we make mistakes, okay, a mistake is basically, it's an intention, isn't it? Okay, it's a hidden intention. It's not necessarily a mistake. There was an idea usually behind that. So when I hear those mistakes, what I'm trying to do is get behind what I was trying to do. And then those things actually then become the things that you practice. So I suppose it's great the when you're doing things like Thomas, when he's doing the competitions and stuff like that, that's a great way for you to kind of get in the camera, record yourself and review what you're doing. And I think out of all of the data that you can collect on your playing, that is the most valuable, okay, is putting yourself under some sort of pressure. So maybe playing in front of the missus is one, or playing in front of friends is also a good one. But certainly sitting in front of a camera and recording yourself is great data as well. And then also if you can do lives and things like that, that's also great as well, because it's just a brilliant way to review your performance and come up with those little exercises and things that you need to do. I mean, it's been particularly like this year, I've really been drilling down on sort of my presenting, and it's come along in leaps and bounds, and it's simply because, and with the content, you can see the content, how performance-wise I'm starting to try and bring in my actual character that I have instead of being like a stiff robot. And that all just comes from the fact that I'm recording, putting something out there, and then I'm reviewing it as honestly as I can, and then I'm making improvements as I go. I'm learning from that, and that's how we learn. I mean, we learn from problems, don't we? We learn from our mistakes, but mistakes aren't mistakes. It's a hidden intention. That's all it is. And when we do make those mistakes, it's always worth doing an investigation on what the intention was behind it. Right? Does that help? Right. So we're up to chapter 8 now, and we're talking about teaching, right? And I mean, I can highly recommend teaching, right? Because like one way, okay, to learn more about your learning is to actually start teaching people, because then you've got to recall facts in detail, and not only that, other people have. I don't want to like pigeonhole learners, right? But I mean, people have so many. I mean, there's not. I mean, people say, oh, I'm a visual learner or this, that, the other. I think at the end of the day, we learn in a lot of different styles, you know. And as a teacher, what it's really important to do is to be flexible, that you can teach a concept in multiple, like different ways. And what that means is, you know, if you're teaching a concept, say modes, is being able to teach it in from different perspectives. You know, there are lots of different ways. Have no limitations as a limitation. I like it. Yeah. So the thing. Yeah. So the thing with limitations are great because that's where the artist lives. So that's a brilliant way of putting it. You know, if we have limitations, that kind of presents us with a set of problems, doesn't it? Which allows us to think outside of the box and come up with things that we wouldn't normally do. I mean, this is the thing, we have so many plugins and stuff to do on our computers, like everything's at our disposal, and we don't need any of it, really. We only need a couple of plugins. But what we feel like then, there isn't any limitations, so there's nothing to really like push against. So it's very difficult to think creatively about things when, you know, when you're sitting there going, right, I can do whatever I want. It's like, well, where do I start? But having those limitations, yeah, that's where the artist definitely lives. So teaching people is a really important one. And I think like one thing where I'm definitely aware, like I mean, I prefer coaching. I'll just say that, right? Okay. But when I've got to teach, I can teach. And so one concept people always find really hard is learning modes, right? And then, so there are different, like when I'm teaching people modes, right? Which does happen. It hasn't happened for a while though. I have a number of different ways that I'll teach them. So, you know, I'll teach them to how to relate the modes just in a major key and then in a minor key. There's like one thing, and then we'll look at the characteristics of modes where we line them up all in the same key. So you'll have like, you know, like C major, and you'll have C Dorian, and then you number the scales so you can see like the number difference, like which notes are different and which ones aren't, and then do ear training with that. So there's like a number of different like sort of ways that I'll kind of deploy to teach somebody how to learn that concept. And of course, like by doing that, that's given me all kinds of like insights and stuff on harmony and improvisation. So, you know, definitely teaching is a real game changer. And then things really kind of got very cool when I started to then get into coaching, because that's like everything, isn't it? That's taking, it's not a skill for, you know, we're no longer not focusing in on just acquiring skills. We're like saying, all right, okay, these are the skills that I've got now. How am I going to deploy them to get to where I want to be? You know, what's my goal? How am I going to get there? And I think, you know, I do kind of bash the education system up quite a bit, saying it's out of date and stuff like that. But I think in this day and age, where we're at, I think definitely schools would benefit um, with some sort of form of, coaching for young people. I think they would massively benefit from that, just saying, hey, you're in a situation, you're learning all these subjects, right? But what is it that you want to do in your life? And then how could we use all of the things that you're learning in this system and then apply those to you actually, achieving your dreams? And I don't, that doesn't really happen. It's like everything is like completely sort of like siloed. You do maths, physics, chemistry, and none of these elements are really brought together in any practical kind of way where it's going to foster people to think entrepreneurial about what they're doing. It's sort of like I was just like went through the system. Luckily, I knew what I was doing. I was gonna rock. So I was saying, well, Tim, what are you gonna do? I was just like, yeah, I want to rock. Like just it's just the thing. That's really all they got out of me. I'm going to be a guitarist. And I went, well, you're going to feed yourself, and don't know. It'll work itself out. In fact, I know I've gone. I'm just going to be amazing. And then, but obviously that didn't work. Not that I'm saying I'm amazing or anything. But coaching is a massive game changer, and it's one of my favorite things actually to do. I mean, I even coach myself, and I have two coaches. I have a music coach, and I have a coach for everything else, and it's just brilliant. The other thing about sort of the teaching thing as well is like everybody does need a teacher, and like there've been times where, and I've talked about it, that I've gone to say like Rick Graham for a guitar lesson, and that was simply to work out. I mean, what that was to do with that was to do with positive reinforcement, which is one of the inner game of music things. So what I wanted to know was like what what I was doing, was I doing learning it in the correct way. I'm talking about economy picking, the old story about the existential crisis that I had. I had to really, because it was such a time commitment to then go, right, I'm going to stop alternate picking, and I'm going to really focus in on this one technique, and then take a nosedive into being not very good, was hard. Was a hard thing for me to swallow, and as I was sinking so much time into it, you do get a bit disheartened, and I just needed to know that what I was doing, was I doing the right thing, and I wasn't going to hit major problems where I would find I waste a load of time and I won't get the gains that I'm wanting. So we're lifelong learners, aren't we? So that was really important for me, was to like just have that little bit of validation. Really helped me, worth absolutely every penny. And I'll go for a lesson just for like a bit of an MOT check, just on my technique and stuff, and I'll have little questions and things like that, geared on what I'm working. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to plow loads of time into something and not get the benefits. I mean, I do trust myself to a point, but when I'm not getting the benefits, and there's a particular technique like hybrid picking was another one, that was a bit of a mystery. So I did have to have some lessons on that, and it helped a little bit. But actually, the weird thing with hybrid picking was, just for me to crack that, was basically just to stop doing upstrokes and just force myself to just hybrid instead of an upstroke, and then you start kind of learning your regular sort of things that you'll play, and then it starts, as you're improvising, it starts becoming quite natural, and you can do it. So that's what it actually took. It's just like riding a bike. I just needed a good push off for that one. But yeah, positive reinforcement really helps. So going to a teacher, getting your playing checked out, just knowing that what you're doing is the correct thing, and you're okay. And also positive reinforcement, getting a music coach. So you've got somebody to talk to, and you can reflect on where you're at, You can set goals. So you've always got something new to discover and learn that's actually to do with what you're wanting to do with your life, you know? And then exploratory assignments, giving students exercise that encourage exploration and curiosity. So that's something that happens like all the time in coaching. When I'm getting coached, you know, we play different games that are designed really to cause certain problems in your process. So you can see, again, it's the hidden intentions. You want to see what the hidden problems are, so you can work on that. So exercises tend to be, and the ones certainly that I do with people, are designed to actually show you something that you may not have been aware of, that you can work on, that will give you a massive gain in your music making. So all the coaching that I do is all geared around basically writing music, starting and finishing. Hence the automatic music machine, hence, you know, that whole thing about how I've got creativity modularized and we can work in these different sections. So like making ideas, you know, without judgment, discovering what those ideas want to be. And the discovery thing, again, coming back to the hidden intentions, that's what that's about. It's about that, you know, when you make a mistake, there was an intention. That's what discovery is all about. It's about discovering what that intention was meant to be, or could be. So I have like various sort of exercises that I'll take people through that'll show them this, you know, at different sections of the creative journey. You know, we have like the drafting. So drafting, when we're arranging things, it's a different set of like sort of problems. So there are certain games that we'll play that'll show you different things that you could be doing or working on when you're drafting, or things to try out. And in coaching groups as well, what I'll do is like all these exercises are timed. You'll get 10, 15 minutes to actually do this particular thing. So you're always kind of fighting against the clock as well, which is just brilliant for inspiration, insight, and all the good stuff. And being in flow, so it gets quite intense. But yes, and as Chili's saying, it's like one of those exploratory things are limitations. When I start people off, I always start them off on a template when you're new to the coaching, which is beats plus 3. So you only get like drums, bass, a mid-range instrument, and some sort of lead instrument, your voice or guitar or whatever. And that's all you've got to work with. And then what you do is I take you through a process of upgrading each of those players till you get something sort of like the templates that I use. But I mean, the great thing about that is through that process is you constantly kind of practicing using your template in relation to the music that you're making, so it all grows in a very sort of synced up way, as opposed to having a template where there are no limitations and you've got, you know, basically every instrument, every guitar plugin that you've got all in one project, and then it becomes like massively overwhelming. So improvisation exercise sets simple rules or limitations to guide improvisation. So I think like one of the things, improvisational things that I did is I became very, very focused over the last few years on just using the pentatonic scale. I was very much a like kind of very much a shredder that was like kind of locked in with very sort of modal playing. But like then I just became like really obsessed with, especially tune up a string sort of pentatonic scales, because what I realized is, although limiting, there's a reason why a pentatonic scale sounds really, really good. I mean, part of that is to do with the way that we are conditioned as human beings. There's this great, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Leonard Bernstein Harvard lectures, where he talks about harmonic series, but basically, when he was at Harvard, I think he was either doing his master's. I think he was doing his master's. Anyway, he was doing research there, and he was looking, what he was wanting to do, the question was, is why are like these pieces of music that he was looking at particularly successful, and why are they seen as like music that everybody seems to like? That's what he wanted to know. And so he analyzed these pieces, and then what he actually found was that they all had the very similar constellations of notes, okay, that were going on. So anyway, they put a multidisciplinary team together, and there was basically a physicist and someone who does linguistics as well, and they all had a look at that. And the physicist, what he came up with, which is the most interesting thing, was basically when you hit a note on a piano key, you have like the harmonics, you have what's called the harmonic series. So if you hit a C, it's like C, an octave C, and then I think there's a fifth, and then there's an octave again. Then the next one's a third, and it kind of goes up like that. Then there's a fifth, and then you get this like quarter tone, but when you round it up, it gives you the fourth. So basically, what you end up with, so we've got the root, the octave, the third, and the fourth. So you've got pretty much your pentatonic scale in there. Oh, there's the seventh, isn't it? That's the one that you round up. So, and those notes, for some reason, it's like a law of nature. It's built in to musical notes. We're not hearing just one note, we're hearing a series of notes. That then becomes like a pentatonic scale. And then there's also theories of like when the world was more of a continent and we could travel across land masses, that, you know, in music, those notes were carried. So in different nations, you know, in different cultures, a lot of them have use the pentatonic scale. So as human beings, it's a widely accepted thing as, you know, that sounds beautiful. So it makes sense to start off with this very simple framework when you're improvising. So the pentatonic scale is a great limitation. So I think of that, you know, as a center focus, and then I move all my other notes around that. So, like, the other thing that I really like to do is add a ninth to it. So you've got your pentatonic scale, 5 notes. If we add a ninth to it, we've got 6 notes. They call that the hexatonic scale, don't they? So you've got a 6-note scale. We've only got, 7 notes in our major scale, so we're only missing one, and that one note tends to be called the avoid note, although it does work in certain situations. But it's a note that when you land on it just sounds a bit flat and like lifeless, doesn't really do anything. But that's the minor sixth, or if you're in the minor, or the fourth if you're in the major scale. So we're kind of building this like frame of pentatonic scale with a ninth. Okay, and then what I tend to do is then I'll just think about all the passing notes. So I'll tend to think of like one of those hexatonic notes as a landing note, and then I'll do something either chromatic up or down to it, or have that one in the center and go either side of it chromatically, and that seems to work absolutely beautifully, you know. It's just a question of when you're practicing sort of chromaticism and just really training your ear what sounds good, and do it whilst you're improvising over a track. So as an improvisational limitation, like, you know, and I'm sure we're all doing that anyway, is the pentatonic scale. And this is something like in chapter 10, right? We've got mental practice, visualizing playing the instrument while away from it. So, and I think there was somebody did some measurements on this. Is actually if you're practicing a piece of music, or, you know, or a lick or something like that, and you haven't got your instrument, actually practicing it in your head. Now, I used to do this at school all the time. I was like a daydreamer, basically. But when I was daydreaming, I was dreaming about music that I was playing. And sometimes I'd bring, like, if it was like classical piece that I was doing, I'd bring my music in and just read the music and imagine myself actually playing it. So I would look at the problem bars, and I would try and, like, you know, visualize in as much detail as I could my fingers hitting the frets, and how my hands were triggering those notes. And I do find that really, really, really useful, and it does work. It's an amazing thing if if you're at work and you haven't got your guitar, and you just think about something that you're trying to play and try and visually try and remember it. But apparently, I think it's about a 20 to 25% improvement on your performance that can get. So it's quite significant, just mentally practicing. And then in chapter 10, it'll talk about mindfulness practice. So just engaging in meditation. Mindful walking, it talks about. But I mean, for us playing guitar, I think at the end of the day, what I was talking about, the sensory aspects of, playing a note and feeling the vibrations going through your fingers on your left hand, feeling, when I was talking about the Zen art of economy picking, trying to discover the instrument and the limitations and the tensions of that instrument in your hands, that physical feeling, always massively helps. Yeah, Gramps said chromatics. You're always half step away from the right note. I mean, I know we've got 12 notes. We've got 12 notes in our Western system. I think that technically means that we have about a 50% chance of hitting the right note if you don't know anything. But if you do hit a wrong note, if you either go up or down a note, you're back in tune. So when you think about music like that, it's incredibly empowering. It wasn't until a few months ago that I realised that the melodic minor scale was just a major scale with a flattened third. It's insane, isn't it? Mind you, I hardly ever play it. We're just at the end of it now. We're up to chapter 11, integrating the inner and outer games. So holistic practice, integrating the inner principles of traditional practice methods. And reflective practice. After practice sessions, reflect on what worked well and what can be improved using the inner game of music techniques. And simply, like, I boil this down to just you've got your long-term goals and you've got your short-term goals, haven't you? When we're doing our long-term goals, we're kind of focused on that would be releasing music or something where you're connecting to the public, as I was talking about before, where we can collect data. In other words, there's no going back. That thing's been done now. So if you've been playing a solo, you've been doing it on a live stream like I do, or a video or something like that, we can review that and we can practice. We can use that to set practice goals. And now our short-term reviews are the wins, problems, and opportunities, which again is more of a review of us, isn't it? It's more of a review of us and our process, the long-term goals. That's also a review of us, but it's also a review of the music, the thing that actually exists outside of our body, because that's what we're reviewing, aren't we? We are reviewing something that now sort of exists in the world, and to me that's like the most important data. Like, I'll be reviewing my talk today. But yes, I think that brings me up to all of the inner game of music. Right. All right. You probably don't have any questions because, like, I'm just amazing at explaining things, aren't I? But if you do say something in the chat. I mean, what for you? Those of you who've been listening, what sort of things have you found interesting? What sort of insights have you got about your own musical situations? How over the last two sessions of these, has there been anything I've said that's particularly resonated, that you found interesting? Is there something that you're thinking about doing in your own practice? So I'd love to hear these things. It's important. Because there's a lot of, like when as musicians, there's a lot of when I look at YouTube, there's a lot of talking about how we do things and doing and making, and it's out of game stuff, isn't it? You want a good kick drum, you do it like this. There's not a lot of talk about the process of how we feel about the things that we're doing, how that relates to us and how that relates to what we're trying to achieve, or how we're trying to express ourselves through our music. All right, so there you go. I just got here, but I want to play it with others desperately. See, that's a great way of just learning your craft, isn't it? Because A, you learn from other people. B, you're playing, you're communicating, you're using music. It becomes two-way then, doesn't it? It's a language, and that's one thing. Absolutely, my favourite thing about the lives of Thomas is when we go into those free improvisations, because at that moment, that's where I'm always focused. I'm hyper focused on doing those things when we kind of connect. And I've heard us, there's been times where I've just think like, this is really good. What's happening? And it's just that intent, listening to that other person, what they're playing, and listening to every note, and then responding to it in your own way. That's music. Music is a language, isn't it? All right, good. So I've been wanting to sit down with the Zen video and have a page open. Well, that's great. Excellent. Well, you'll enjoy that. So it's quite talky, which is why it only has like a few hundred people interested in it. But my next video is going to be a blockbuster. I'm just going to say, this picking exercise saved my life. Or if you're not picking like this, you're doing it wrong. And then I'll just do the picking exercise, and then it'll get loads of views on it. Yeah, they're great, aren't they? In fact, this Saturday will be live. I would imagine it's a once a fortnight, isn't it? So could happen. I'll tell you what, my music life is getting very interesting, because last night. So yesterday, right, if you're on the live yesterday, I kind of farted out a bit of a track, right? And then last night I was trying to get to bed, which is why I haven't been that prepared for today's talk, because the missus is like, I like that tune, just loop it round. And then immediately, like, the lyrics started flowing. Very creative. So, and then all of this kind of happened. She's like, right, I've got the verse, I've got the chorus, right? This is the concept, this is what we're doing. Then we ended up in the songwriting session. Because, we've got to make follow-up material. So actually, and I think our SoundCloud, despite it being up not much more than a week, is we've gone over 10,000 listens. That's amazing, isn't it? That track is great. Yeah. So whatever I did yesterday now got made into a song called. Don't know. Let's have a look at the chorus. The chorus says, "Gotta face my fears, get yourself right out of here. Sometimes I've got a badass attitude. You're the twilight to change my mood. I've got to face my fears, got myself just disappear, escape a life that's just no good. It's gonna hurt, and we're gonna draw blood." and then it goes into, and then she starts laughing on it. Ha ha ha. Does this like ha 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 weird voice thing. So yes, that's been. So now, there's going to be a video shoot or video shoots. This is going to be ongoing. So I know that like she's done like a storyboard, and I know on I think it's the end of this month we're going up to the moors to shoot a video, and she's going to pretend she's a hitchhiker in a camouflage dress, and that's all I know. So frightening. But yeah, so those of you who don't know, I've basically we uploaded all of our music from 25 years ago on SoundCloud. You can find it. It's a Freakstar original. Enjoy. Right, back to the Indie Gamer music. Has anybody else got any other sort of things that they've taken away from what I've been talking about? Anything at all? But it's okay not to have anything. It's all right. All right then. So I think we're coming to a close of this morning's session. Tomorrow I'm not here because I've got my coaching group. I will be here on Thursday morning for some more stuff. Thursday morning, I think what we're going to do is, I'm really into live drums at the minute. Oh, not. Have you seen Baby Reindeer? No. Should I watch it? You're the second person who's mentioned it to me. Will I find inspiration in it? All right then. I'll check it out. Right, no, that's okay. This is live. Is this live? Yes, Matt, it is. It is very much live. So I've just been talking about one of my favourite books, The Inner Game of Music, and how it's kind of helped me and how potentially it could help anybody who hears this video. I just think it's really important. So, yeah, cool. So on Thursday, all right, we'll be doing something a bit less thinky and more fun though. And the fun thing is, and I'll just show you, is I've got... I've been getting into live drums lately. So let's have a look. All right, there I am. So live drums. And there's absolutely, actually, I would really like to know your thoughts on this. What is your live drum plugin weapon of choice? For me, because Excel and Audio are very, very good to me and Thomas, I've been using Addictive Drums too, and I think it's really, really good from a point of, I do find it very inspiring to use. You know, you've got, so I'll just run through it. So you've got loads of kits that you can just go through, right? And then just try them out. Go from the beginning. We'll see what's what. So, hold on. See, I really love the sound of that. Let's see if that loads up. See what that's like with a track. So we're going to be having a look at the trials and tribulations of programming live drums, because it's something normally, I mean, because I was a dance producer for years and years, I'm not really kind of up to speed with this sort of thing. So that's going to be interesting. So I do have this, and I find, let's see what this kit's like. So it's interesting how you can just go through, try different presets, find out the kit that you like. What's this one like? So the thing with this plugin, right, is it's super deep. I mean, you do get like this little mixer at the top, which is handy. So it's dry. But it does get very, very deep. Like there's all of this, like this mixer section. That's really interesting. So this is all overhead and room. Cool. But it does go very, very deep. But we'll have a look at that on Thursday, and we'll start writing some music with it. Right, what's this kit? Pretty good sounding. Like it. Oh, quite like that. I tend to go with the room type sounds. So yeah, Thursday will be I'll be here writing some music on this template, which we can go through as well. So anybody who's watching, not subscribed to the channel, if you can kind of drop me a sub, that would be absolutely amazing as well. That would be really, really cool. Other than that, it's time for me to go. I've got the rest of my day to face. So we'll geek out on Thursday. Right. See you guys then. Bye.